Hey, welcome to the Face Maker Factory. This is Steve LaPorte again. I had a question come from a friend of mine the other day. They called me up and they were asking how I got rid of the air bubbles in my foam latex when I'm putting it into the mold. After a few questions, I found out that their technique was basically dumping it into the mold with a spatula. Well, one thing that I never use is a spatula and just pour a bowl full of rubber into a mold. I use an injector. So stay tuned for this next episode. We're going to go over foam injectors. Stay tuned. Okay, let's start things off with the basic of the basic. This is my very old aluminum tooled foam latex injector. You notice I've got a little rubber tip on it, so when I put it into the mold, it kind of locks into the hole I've drilled. The way this works is, you see, here we go. This is the piston that goes into it, and this is the slider lid that slops down and goes over this edge when it's all put together. Now the nice thing about this one is it's got a flapper valve in it. Now this flapper valve is this little guy right here. See how that kind of stands away? As you tighten this down, it just tightens it up, maybe for transport or travel. But loosens properly, you got a little flap. Now what that does is when you plunge this thing down inside of the tube, air escapes here because it goes around the dead space in the flap. But as soon as the flap touches the latex that you've poured into the cylinder, it closes off the air, and this makes a nice tight fit and pushes your foam latex out of your spout right here. So looking down inside, you can see how it all works. You pour your foam in, insert this, let that slide to the top to lock it in, and there's your injector. This is a nice one because if you line up your molds and you're running a lot of latex, you can line up all of your molds like so. And just go down the line, put a little foam there, a little foam there, just keep going down the line, and someone walks behind you and closes up all your molds. Gives them a push, that knocks out all the excess foam. Boom. That way you've got a nice assembly line of running all your pieces using foam latex and an injector. Okay, next. In my travels, I decided I wanted to make a couple of portable, lightweight foam injectors. And by using clear tubing, I could see how much foam I had left. I couldn't really see in the other type of injector, the big aluminum one. So what I did was, I got some scrap plastic at the plastic store, and I just happened to find some other plastic that was just small enough to fit inside of it, just like that. So what I did was these were scrap pieces. I cut this the length I wanted it, sanded it down. This piece originally was about this long. I just ran it through my bandsaw, cut a nice ring, sanded it down so it's nice and flat. Then I drilled holes around the edges of it, put tape over the holes, and poured liquid plastic inside of the ring, which was sitting on a flat surface. I put clay around it so nothing would leak out. And I poured it into the ring. Little bits of it went into the little holes where I had drilled and filled up. It couldn't escape because of the tape. And that locked this piece right into the ring itself. I believe the way I did this too is as it was drying, I put my little piece of PVC into the middle of it and poured it like so. So it became part of it. Then I could make my own little flapper valve. You see? The exit hole there. I center drilled into this because it had plastic in it. So every time I clean it off, I just unscrew that, take any foam latex away that might be there, and put my screw in just enough to hold it in place and allow air to escape. This was made very much the same way, except that I just put Vaseline inside of this, turned it upright, and poured from the top some liquid plastic, which made this perfect disc. And because I put Vaseline inside it, I was able to release it. Then I had a circle form that I poured this in, a separate piece, and I epoxied the two together, drilled a hole, center drilled it so it would slide loosely. And as you see, this is made just perfect to fit inside of the plastic, allowing this to slide up and down. The big metal one had a thing that went over the outside of it, which made it bulkier. This kind of makes this much more streamlined, and as you see, it slides really nice. The other ends were drilled and glued. A little piece of water pipe using connectors. I can connect these. I can put longer ones on if I have to get down into a really long, deep mold. But again, for like running pieces, this is great. You know, I can have a flat mold like this, several of these open, have this standing by, just inject my foam where I want it, put that in there, you know, flip these into place, throw a clamp or weight on them, press them down, any excess foam comes out, and you have a nice flashing to hold on to while you're putting the makeup, getting it all ready to go. So these are great. This holds about, maybe 150 grams. This is what I call my shorty, and this is for doing little half batches, 75 grams of foam. If I'm just going to do a bunch of noses, I'll use this one. This is really handy, so it's that fast, but you can see I can get about a pint of foam latex in it. And if you're in a hotel room with a tiny convection oven and you have a little foam set up, you can run your foam latex in the bathroom. And if it's a 75 gram batch, it takes you all of 10 minutes to run that small amount of foam. And I just set these things up. I'll get a cup or some kind of a jar or something, and when I'm ready to fill it, I just have it standing by. So I'll do my foam, dump it in, scrape it off in there, kind of tap it. It's thick, so it's not going to come pouring out the bottom, and it just sits there. This could be standing by. I just pick it up, pop it on, lift it up, and put it into my molds as I need to use it. So these are great. And the nice thing about it is if you're traveling, all this stuff unscrews, and you can store it all inside of the injector. All these little parts you can store inside, so the whole thing packs down really small in a little box. That way it doesn't get messed up in shipping, or if you just carry it, in your suitcase to get there. It's pretty cool. Same with this one. This one, I've used this for so much. I kind of stopped using the big metal one once I made these. One little thing I want to cover before I put all these away is I showed you how I cast up these, made these two parts. Now this one is interesting because I had to have a bottom in it. What I did was I Vaselined the inside rim, set this whole thing flat, and I poured in my plastic till it rose up till about right here. I let the plastic completely set, then I pushed it out and set it down, and I center drilled it the best I could. Glued in these pieces. This bottom area right here, I just kind of sanded it a little bit. Then I reinserted it back inside so it was flush. Then I drilled some holes and put screws in it. Now the reason I did it that way is because this one could stay stationary. I could work with it by drilling holes in it. But to center drill something this big while it's permanently attached to this would not work for me. Also, because the cylinder, the other one being very long, might need some, might create some issues if I left this permanently attached. So this way I can change this out, make a different one. You see this hole's a little off center, didn't really matter. But basically that's how I made this end piece, which is with the screws permanently attached as part of it. You see I got a little buildup of latex in there. I don't even worry about it. If anything, it makes a nice tight gasket. This type of casting plastic right here, sometimes it will shrink ever so slightly. This particular one, which is I believe a 2-part polyester, it doesn't shrink much. Others do. This one, this white stuff, it does shrink. That's why when I poured a layer of it in a piece of this, it fit. But you see, it is a little loose. That's because of the shrinkage of this material. So the shrinkage of this material is a lot more than the shrinkage of this material, and that's why I use 2 different materials. If you don't have 2 different materials, you use what you got, because if you want to take and pour some discs and they get, they shrink up over time, you can always put, epoxy around it and put it into place very carefully. Set it down until the epoxy sets, and it's epoxied in there. It's not going anywhere. So, think outside the box. That's how you make really cool stuff for pennies on the dollar compared to buying some fancy schmancy thing at the special makeup effects store. But I must say that there's some pretty cool stuff out there at the special makeup effects stores. So you may find something that's worth spending your money on. But this is a really cool thing to know how to do. Is let's say, what if you're on location and you got to make something? So this is what's going to come in handy. These are all, store-bought PVC parts. You can get them in any hardware store. You can even mix up, if you had to make this whole thing out of Bondo, you could mix up a big gob of Bondo. Get yourself a plastic piece of tubing, pour some Bondo in there. It'll set flat, leave it where it is, drill yourself a hole, get yourself something to glue into it, pour yourself another Bondo disc like this and screw. Think outside the box. You're going to come up with some really cool ideas. So that way you can be in Podunk, Iowa somewhere, or Santa Fe, New Mexico without a foam injector. Hit the local Ace hardware store, and you got all the tools and all the creativity to make something that's a useful tool. Well, as you can see, there's more than one way to skin a cat. Not that I want to skin a cat. I got 2 of them. I'd rather just feed them and have them sit on my lap. Anyway, so I hope that was informative for you. And you can go out and make your own injector now that you kind of know the ropes and how I went about it. I just want to encourage everyone to think outside the box. You have to come up with some great ideas sometimes and turn into a MacGyver. So open up your brain and get creative. We'll see you next time.